For all of you, the crime and violence that today afflicts our nation will soon, and I mean very soon, come to an end. How great are our police, and how great is Cleveland?
The top 6 lies, the major lies of the State of the Union address. He said that wages went up under his administration. They barely went up the first 3 quarters, but then they fell in the fourth, and it fell in the fourth such a rate that it wiped out all the gains on his watch from the first 3 quarters and then some. So they briefly went up, and then they went back down. So actually wages have gone down. That's a lie. The biggest tax cut in the world, not true. It's actually the 8th biggest since 1918, and then the 4th or 5th biggest since 1940. One of the big ones, Truman's 1945 rollback of taxes that financed World War II. ISIS, that area, it's almost 100%. No, it's 93%. So Visa program lottery, no such thing. The more regulations cut than any other.
Another humiliation came when President Obama drew a red line in Syria. And the whole world knew it meant absolutely nothing.
It's about the $1.5 trillion infrastructure, which I'm excited about. That's an infrastructure package, right? So high-speed rail, roads, bridges, some Wi-Fi, that would be some important infrastructure, some 5G mobile network. But we're not talking about that. In fact, we're just talking about the natural gas pipeline. We need to cut the red tape so that way we can sell off our National Park Service-owned land to the natural gas industry. So is that, are we actually getting an infrastructure, or are we just cutting this red tape and getting the permits out faster? So the wages actually went down. The $1.5 trillion infrastructure plan is actually a secret plan that only Trump knows about. He hasn't talked about it. He hasn't unveiled it. The big tax cut isn't the biggest tax cut ever. Compared to JFK, in 1964, JFK passed a bigger tax cut.
In Libya, our consulate, the symbol of American prestige around the globe, was brought down in flames. America is far less safe, and the world is far less stable than when Obama made the decision to put Hillary Clinton in charge of America's foreign policy.
Big tax cut is a plutocrat tax cut. 87% of Americans' taxes are actually going up, so they're raising the taxes on most of America. But the 1%ers and the plutocrats, the very wealthy, it's supposed to be $1.5 trillion over 10 years. So it's supposed to be a large and expensive plan, but it's actually smaller than original. They wanted a $5.5 trillion package. Even if it was $5.5 trillion of dollars worth of taxes being cut for the 1%, they would have only been the 3rd largest since 1940 as a share of gross domestic product. So proportionally speaking, Ronald Reagan's 1981 tax cuts were bigger. JFK's tax cuts finally got passed in 64. They were bigger. And then Barack Obama had actually made Bush's tax cuts permanent. So 2010, 2013 under Barack Obama was a bigger tax cut. Different numbers, but essentially the recent tax bill is the 4th largest since 1940. As a percentage of GDP, however, it ranks 7th. And then put it just in this century, for the last 100 years, it's the 8th biggest since 1918. So the 8th biggest since 1918, the 8th biggest. That's not the biggest. He says it's the biggest, and it's the 8th biggest. He wants to sit there and brag and make up all this stuff when JFK had a bigger tax cut, Ronald Reagan and Obama. Obama had a bigger tax cut than Trump did. And then Truman, right? We were financing World War II. Then we didn't need that money anymore, so we rolled the taxes back in 1945. That was huge, right? That was a major thing. So Ronald Reagan, 1981, JFK, 1964, and then Truman, 1945, 2010, 2013 under.
One more child to sacrifice on the order and on the altar of open borders.
Area controlled by the Islamic State shrunk 93% since January 2015. So, overall it's 93% smaller, but actually under Trump it went from, it's 89% smaller. So that's not 100%. This is war. So we're going to sit there and say we're almost got rid of all ISIS, nearly 100%, when it's 89%. There's still 11% left. And if it's the 93 number, which is with Obama too, then that's still 7%. 7%. What 7% of the United States is? Washington State, Oregon, Montana. I mean, this is 7% is several states. So it's not insignificant. You haven't won the war. So mission accomplished. We've defeated ISIS. We can end the war now? Nope. We can't end the war, even though it's longer than the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, and the first.
What about our economy? Again, I will tell you the plain facts that have been edited out of your nightly news and your morning newspaper. This new wealth will improve the quality of life for all Americans. We will build the roads, highways, bridges, tunnels, airports, and the railways of tomorrow. Nearly 4 in 10 African American children are living in poverty, while 58% of African American youth are now not employed. This, in turn, will create millions of more jobs.
It's about the third pillar of his immigration plan, ending the visa lottery. So we don't have a visa lottery system anymore. Do we even have a visa lottery system to begin with? So there's no program that just randomly hands out green cards to any and everybody without any regard to the skill or merit or the safety of our people. So he's a liar. They go through extensive background checks, and once they've met the preconditions, then there's a kind of lottery, right, after they've passed the test. So once 100 people have passed the test, then only 30% can get in. Then there's a lottery once everybody has passed the test. So he's making it sound like it's just this visa lottery program or just, just lies. He just lies for no damn reason. The other major big one, the regulations overall, he's actually increased the regulations. He hasn't lowered regulations, he's increased regulations.
For all of you, the crime and violence that today afflicts our nation will soon, and I mean very soon, come to an end.
You're shit for brains, old President Shithole. President Shithole is for more tariffs. He is for more executive orders. He is law and order. He's Mr. Law and Order. For every law that you scratch off, you got to pass the law in order to scratch off a law. So the highest ratings in history, we'll come back to that. The biggest audience in history, the highest ratings in history, lies for no reason, just to be lying. But the regulations in 1995, you had the Unfunded Mandates Reform Act, which was a regulation massacre. The Paperwork Reduction Act of 1995 was a regulation apocalypse. And then you had the Regulatory Flexibility Act of 1980. Regulations were pissing their pants over the Regulatory Flexibility Act of 1980. So these are periods when we had more regulations that, cut off the books. These are major periods that don't even compare to them. In fact, regulations increased. He's Mr. Tariffs, Mr. Executive Orders.
This new wealth will improve the quality of life for all Americans. We will build the roads, highways, bridges, tunnels, airports, and the railways of tomorrow.
Horrible lies. These are basically the meat and potatoes of his speech. This is the heart and soul of what he's talking about. The immigration, there's no more lottery. There wasn't a lottery. It's very hard. Immigration is already overly aggressive. ISIS, the area of ISIS. Is it mission accomplished? No, it's not. ISIS is still out there. We still got to fight ISIS. They have 7%, so it's reduced 93%, but 93% not close to 100%, especially in terms of war and peace. Well, we only have 93% peace. Just 93% peace, huh? So regulations went up. That wasn't the biggest tax cut in history. It's by 8th in just this century, 4th in the modern era. then the infrastructure thing, that's a bunch of bullshit. Wages actually went down, or less. He said wages are too high during the campaign, and guess what? Wages went down just like his plutocrat buddies want.
This, in turn, will create millions of more jobs.
His biggest policy points, he's a damn liar. And when it comes to, Orrin Hatch, they said that Orrin Hatch said he was the greatest president, better than Lincoln in Washington. And then Hatch said that he could be the greatest. Just weird lies. Like, why would he say that? Trump said after the State of the Union that he got more views, more viewers watched him on the State of the Union than any other president in history. Where the hell is he getting these numbers from? Where's the hell is he getting these facts from? George W. Bush had 51.8 million in 2002. That was after 9/11. And then in 2003, he had 63 million right before Iraq. 51 million is more than 45.6 million viewers. Obama in 2010 had higher numbers, 48.5 million. Bill Clinton in 94 and 98 had 45.8 million and 53 million viewers in the 1998 State of the Union. Trump only got 45.
How great are our police, and how great is Cleveland? Of generosity and warmth. But we will also be a country of law and order.
Is the war going to go on? Are we still doing regime change, and are we still doing the neocon, neoliberal, bipartisan consensus? Yes, of course. We're bombing the shit out of anybody and everybody. This is an empire, and he's taking it to a whole nother level, escalating, and then we got 30 more Vietnams that we're starting in Africa. So he wants to rebuild a nuclear arsenal. I believe all this. I believe he's going to cut food and aid from Puerto Rico, cut the FEMA aid. So he's going to fuck over people. When he says that he's going to fuck people over, definitely believe him. And when it comes to these unnecessary lies, it just shows that he's a pathological liar for no apparent reason whatsoever. He only lies to feed his own ego, to boast about shit he didn't do. And wouldn't a winner just only boast for their wins. They wouldn't make up shit. But a true winner, what I like, whenever you see a wide receiver make a touchdown, and they don't do an icky shuffle, they just kind of say, did my job.
That is why Hillary Clinton's message is that things will never change, never ever. My message is that things have to change, and they have to change right now. For all of you, the crime and violence that today afflicts our nation will soon, and I mean very soon, come to an end. And gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
Touchdown, you can, dance around and showboat a little bit. It makes it a little bit more fun, and, it takes some energy. So there is some enthusiasm with showboating. I don't mind a little bit of showboating, but for shit you actually done, right, for wins you've actually won, you can't do a showboat when the other team scores a touchdown. And then the other thing is the veterans, the great winners, the wide receivers who have had so many touchdowns. One touchdown isn't different than another. And then overall, did you win the game, right? You might have won the battle, but you still have to fight the war. So you still got to get in there and win the game. So there's some veteran wide receivers, when they catch the touchdown, they act like it ain't shit. It's just nothing, right? They did their job. They did what they came to do. And that's winners. Don't say shit. Winners let everybody else say it for them. Look at that badass touchdown. Did you see that? He's a winner.
More from me a long time ago. I've loved and respected him my entire life, and I could not be more proud tonight to present to you and to all of America my father and our next president, Donald J. Trump.
Our country back to safety, prosperity, and peace.